as we look at breakout players for the Alabama Crimson Tide for the 2018 season, got a couple guys for you to think about. First of all, let's hit Trayvon Diggs. Trayvon Diggs, right now you would have to project him as one of the starting corners, and Savion Smith as the other corner. Trayvon Diggs has had a couple of interesting years with wide receiver, and played a little DB his first year. Last year, he gets moved to the cornerback position, and he actually had a pretty good spring. But guess what happened, James? A-Day. And both Jalen Hurts and Tua Tagovailoa just ate his lunch with Calvin Ridley and Robert Foster. And I think the kid lost confidence. But he worked all summer, got better, and was not playing bad this fall. But sometimes when people get beat out, we make the assumption that's because they're bad. No, Levi Wallace just ended up being good. Trayvon Diggs didn't lose his job just because he was a bad corner. He lost his job to Levi Wallace as a result of injury and as a result of Levi Wallace just took the position. I mean, sometimes when guys get a chance, they don't give it up. And Levi Wallace showed that he could handle it. He showed that he could handle the position. But I believe Trayvon Diggs this fall has to be big, James. Now, here's the thing. Kevin Smith said, I'm not sure that Levi Wallace, he said, I hope I'm wrong. I don't believe Diggs will hold on to the starting job at the boundary corner spot. I'm not sure he'll be the starter by the end of the year either. But let me tell you what Levi Wallace, why he's important and why he has to have a breakout year even if he doesn't remain the starter at that corner position. What is Nick Saban notorious for doing with big cornerbacks, James? Where do they end up playing at? Let me give you Eddie Jackson, Minkah Fitzpatrick. What were those guys really? They were corners, but they were big corners, and they were athletic corners, and they were special corners. Don't get me wrong. But they ended up playing at other spots and other positions in the secondary. And I believe Levi Wallace has to come in and lock that corner spot down at the beginning of fall camp to give Patrick Surtain the opportunity to grow as a college player. And I do believe somewhere along the line, you're going to see Diggs and Surtain maybe sharing some time, and then Surtain I wouldn't be surprised if Diggs locks it down and keeps it all year, and Surtain does some other things. I think he's going to play as a true freshman. But I see Diggs as a potential guy, James, that moves into that star role, that role sort of like Minkah, as that fifth DB. But you also have, if you go against one of these teams that has, 4 or 5 wide receivers, you have a corner that can lock down a receiver in one-on-one coverage. So that's why I'm picking Trayvon Diggs, not just because he's going to start at corner, but because of his experience and his ability to start at corner. It's going to give Surtain Jr. a chance to grow into that position, and it's also going to give Alabama some more versatility in that defensive backfield, which I believe is a key to that secondary being good. And Trayvon Diggs becomes one of those Eddie Jackson, Minkah Fitzpatrick type of players as this year goes along into his senior year. Watch for that to happen. The other breakout position that I think is mission critical for Alabama is on the defensive side of the ball, and that's the nose tackle position. I know we're talking about inside linebackers. We've talked about Mack Wilson being the quarterback of the defense. But in my opinion, in my opinion, the guy who has to have a breakout season is Quintin Williams. Quintin Williams at that nose tackle position. I look at his left and his right. I look at Raekwon Davis. Everybody's falling in love with this kid. I mean, everyone loves Raekwon Davis. He's 6'7", 300 pounds, unbelievable athlete, unbelievable burst. He's going to get his. He's going to get his. Then you look at Isaiah Buggs on the other side. He's going to get his. Those two positions are going to be improved from last year. But you have got to replace Daron Payne. Why do you have to replace Daron Payne? There's two parts that you have to replace with Daron Payne. You have to replace his productivity on the field. You have got to replace that productivity just in pure numbers. Quarterback hurries, pressure on the quarterback, tackles for losses. You have to replace all of those things. But that's not the biggest thing. That's not the biggest thing. To me, the biggest thing you have to replace is how he demanded a double team and sometimes even triple team. That's what makes the Alabama linebackers great, is when the guy in the middle can create chaos in that offensive line. When they can't stand and take the center and go one-on-one with the nose tackle or the interior lineman, when they can't go one-on-one with him and they have to have some type of blocking scheme or some type of combo block, when you take that up, it frees up those linebackers to read and react, to scrape off the ball, to get free, to be chased by those offensive linemen. And if Quintin Williams can bring that to the table, because, see, I didn't realize this, James. Quintin Williams was 4th in tackles for loss last year. In reserve backup duty, he had 6.5 tackles for a loss last year. So the guy showed that he can be a playmaker. He showed this spring that he can create some havoc. But the question is, when he goes up against a top-notch center, which he's going to run into down the stretch in the big games, maybe not early on, but in the big games down the stretch, when you get to the playoffs, etc., you're going to run against centers who can play at the next level. And if they can take him one-on-one, James, and they don't have to double team him or have any type of combo blocks, then it's going to be tough on Mack Wilson and Dylan Moses. Now, who has to have the best year may be different than who I think the breakout player has to be. To me, Quintin Williams is the guy who has to come in and absolutely become a game changer, because he's replacing Daron Payne, a young man who I think was underrated as a player at Alabama. He was absolutely dominating at what we asked him to do. He was an unbelievable athlete. He required to double. He was strong. He was fast. He was quick. He could do it all. And that's what Quintin Williams is faced with replacing. And if he can't get it done, then you're looking at guys like LeBron Ray, Ferdarian Mathis, Johnny Dwight. So to me, it's a huge drop-off. So he has to be able to consistently do it at a high level. If those three guys, James, Raekwon Davis, Quintin Williams, I'm not saying he needs to be as good as Daron Payne, because Daron Payne was a top 14 pick. There's a long way between the top 14 pick and still being a really good SEC player. He just has to demand that double team. Demand the double team, Quintin Williams, and Mack Wilson and Dylan Moses will be well on their way to becoming potentially the best combo of linebackers Alabama's had at one time in a long, long time. I definitely think these two may be the most athletic combo that Alabama's had in there at the same time. And I think Quintin Williams in a breakout season is par for the course, the recipe for this defense, because as that front line goes, there goes the linebackers. And as the linebackers and the front line goes, the front seven, there goes our defensive backfield. We've talked a lot about the quarterback position. I even had somebody just post on Facebook, they're tired of the quarterback debate. But, you know, you have to talk about it. In talk radio, you kind of talk about what people are talking about. And even though everybody's tired of it, they keep talking about it. But we need to be talking about this defensive backfield. But I think the defensive backfield success starts with Raekwon Davis, Quintin Williams, Isaiah Buggs. Because if they're dominant, then you're going to have linebackers that are dominant. And if that front seven is causing chaos for the running backs, for the quarterback, then those DBs and those young DBs have a chance to work their way into being the type of defense Alabama's come to love and to expect. So hopefully Quintin Williams puts on a little bit more weight and maybe get a little stronger, and maybe LeBron Ray can do likewise. And if those two can, it may take both of them, but I think if they can do that, then Alabama has a great chance to have a great defense